Jose from California, what's going on?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's going, Jose. Says here that you believe that souls and spirits do exist. Tell us why you believe that.
Why?
That's correct. So I'm convinced that they do because I've seen them for myself.
Okay. How did you determine that what you saw was a soul or a spirit? What was your method of making that determination?
Because that's a great question. So
thank you.
All right. I'll share my story, if you will. It'll be super quick.
Got it.
So, I mean, numerous times while falling asleep, I'm 25 years old, and this stuff like this started happening, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. So, on numerous occasions while falling asleep. Go
ahead. Continue.
Out-of-body experiences.
Okay.
I've had like out-of-body experiences, if you will.
I might not.
Sleep, what appears to be, me, essentially float. I'm just gonna word it the way it felt, or the way how it was. Me floating out of my body, my own body, which I assume would be my soul, and then just floating out of my own body in my own room, and then seeing these human-like, entities, if you will, except there was no physical body. It was just like a soul or a spirit. That's, the idea of what we,
So
would picture that to be. So a being.
There's an interesting thing that we're right out of the gate. I've got all kinds of questions about your experience. Mm-hmm. So first, I just want to put on the table, I believe that you had the experience that you're describing.
Yeah.
But the question is, what was the cause of the experience? What can we know about the nature of this experience? Okay. Because in my experience, what people describe as out of body experiences are still experiences. And as far as I know, your experiences happen in your brain, which is very much in your body. So how do we determine that the experience that you're describing as out of body didn't happen in your brain, which is very much in your body?
Well, being that I'm not a scientist or some neuroscientist or anything of that nature, pretty much all I can do is just share my experience, and which is why I'm convinced, which is why I'm a theist.
Wait, which is why you're a theist?
That's why you're a theist? Is because you were falling asleep and you had phenomenon that you ascribed to out of body and spirit perception?
Yeah, what does one have to do with the other?
Yeah. Well, now you just open up a can of worms here.
We got all excited.
Jose, you're good. You're good. You're safe. It's good. It's good cop today. It's okay. All right. That's what they would say, though, isn't it? They would say that. Okay. First of all, like I said, okay, flagging it. You said you were falling asleep. I've fallen asleep. I've heard noises. Does that mean the noises were there? No. I had an experience. Drifting in and out of sleep does stuff. You perceive things that may not actually have existence in the material world. It could be a psychological phenomenon. It's well documented that when people are falling in and out of states of consciousness, that things the conscious mind can confuse a dream world with reality. I've had it all the time. I have a lot of dreams, a lot of active dreams. And in the moment, I'm completely convinced that they're happening. And then I wake up and I realize, no, that didn't happen at all. But this sounds like it was a very subtle dream. It sounds like it didn't happen for a while, then it started happening. I go through phases where my dreams are extremely realistic. But you seem to have arrived at a conclusion, and I wonder that that this is the soul, that this is the spirit, that there's a spirit realm and a physical realm. But you identified as a theist, and then you said you don't believe because of these experiences, but you do believe in the existence of God, gods, and spirit realms, right?
I guess what I'm saying is that those are the reasons why I'm convinced that there are supernatural and or God, or because I've seen it for myself. Or
so I'm just trying to place a seed of doubt in your mind as a heathen atheist kind of guy over here, big skeptic guy. I would encourage you to look at how out of body experiences can be induced in like laboratory settings. There's a lot of research into this. So before arriving at a conclusion, I understand that you're convinced, but before allowing yourself to be convinced, I think that it can be a good idea, if you care about whether your beliefs are true, to make sure that that state of being convinced is, proportioned to the amount of evidence that we have. So
yeah, Jose, we're not taking anything away from the experience
Nope.
that you had, that the phenomenon that you apprehended. We're not taking anything away from you as a person, but I think what Kenneth and I are saying is look into the psychology of sleep and hallucinations. It doesn't take anything away from you as an intelligent person who is trying to understand your world, but I think it's to your benefit if you put a little asterisk in your I reached this conclusion. Let's step away from that a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't want to give you homework. Okay. But what I'm hoping to do is get you to but I want to get you to think about whether or not your state of being convinced is really justified yet, or if there's more work that could be done. I'm hoping to put a little crack in the certainty, so that you ask more questions.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, I guess that's fair. I'm convinced that it was, as real as daylight.
Well, and I'll just tell you straight up, the reason I'm not convinced is because it seems to me that there are potentially a number of explanations for what you experienced that don't involve souls and or spirits.
Yeah, and also my problem with the whole idea of souls and spirits is how does that work? Let's think about that. Yeah. How does the soul interact with the meat bag that is your body? What is in the soul? How does any of that work? When you really zero in on that, when you look at the question of the soul and spirits, and you ask simple basic questions, it starts falling apart. The concept starts falling apart. I mean, it makes sense when society was a little simpler and we didn't have as much knowledge about the material world and energy states that we do now, that there could be a kind of energy, whatever that means, out there. But now we kind of know a lot about energy, not everything. And we still haven't been able to measure any of this stuff. There's still no answer as to how a soul could possibly animate or interact with a physical body.
If it's immaterial, how do you see it? How do you interact with it at all?
Yeah. Is it tethered to your body, or does it exist anywhere in the universe? I know you say you're convinced, okay? But I'll ask you this. On a scale of 0 to 100, how convinced are you that you saw spirits and that souls exist? With 100 being 100%.
100%.
So there's nothing that could ever convince you otherwise? No. I mean, how many hours?
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Jose, how many hours have you spent researching neurology and the science associated with hallucinations?
I wouldn't say hours, but I have tried to research. There's just not that much like scientific study around it.
So you wouldn't say hours, but you wouldn't say hours. So is that minutes then?
Yeah,
You've spent several minutes researching hallucinations?
Yeah.
I think it's really important to just emphasize that the degree to which people are convinced about a claim has nothing to do with whether or not the claim is true. So I would imagine, Jose, that you have heard people talk about experiences that they've had that they're convinced about, but that you didn't follow them there to being convinced. Like if somebody told you that they experienced being abducted by an alien, would that be good enough for you?
Alien abduction.
Yeah, would that be good enough for you to be like, okay, well, they had an experience and they've made a judgment about the cause of that experience. Therefore, I am justified in believing that their claim is true, whatever that claim may be.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, but I'm glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
So we're in the same boat with regard to what you're saying, because, you know, I wonder about the value of 100% certainty, you know, in most situations. So yeah, I'm
even certain that I'm 100% certain, being that I am convinced or that I believe it, but I'm not 100% certain that it's true.
Okay, great. Yeah,
or I'm not making I'm not like making the claim like that this is 100% true. But I am 100% convinced.
What might be useful, if you do want to continue sort of researching this stuff, what might be a good predecessor before looking into like scientific literature, for example, is spending some time thinking about sort of what skepticism is and what it means, how to evaluate claims, asking yourself, when is it time to accept that a claim is true? You know, because there are more reliable ways to arrive at true conclusions than others. I'm going to just say it, like something like the scientific method works a lot better for finding conclusions that are consistent with reality than something like faith.
Right. Yeah. So I do have a question.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, how can I word this? All right. So is it safe to say, and this is why I called, because I like atheists a lot and whatnot, but would it be safe to say that there's two options? Either I did see that, or B, I was hallucinating. Like either it's real or it's not.
I wouldn't frame it like that. Because you had the experience. Okay. So the question becomes, what's the best explanation for the experience? It would be a true dichotomy to say you either did or did not see a spirit. But before we can even get there, I think there needs to be more work done in terms of like the methodology. How are you arriving at your conclusions?
Yeah, and Jose, can I say this too? I mean, there's a premium that we pay on certainty, on confidence, on boldness in this society, that I know the answer. I figured it out. I'm not wrong. I know what I'm doing. All of us fall prey to this. There's no real shame or diminishment of you as a person to say, you know what? I had an experience. At one point I was damn convinced that it was spirits and souls, but I'm going to keep on looking into this. I'm going to try to be uncomfortable with not stamping it on my mind, not writing that in stone. I'm going to keep on exploring, and there's nothing wrong with changing your mind. And there's really nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. That was fucking weird. It seemed like spirits and ghosts, but I'm not sure.
Sure did.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's where you're at. I mean, if I'm hearing you correctly, and I certainly don't want to put words in your mouth. Yeah. That you recognize that you've had this experience and you're trying to figure out what to think about it. Which is that's awesome.
Yeah, keep it up. Don't stop. Here's the thing: don't stop your investigation. You said you spent a few minutes looking into it. Cool, but people have been looking into this phenomenon for, I would dare say, tens of thousands of years.
A minute or two.
Yeah, more than a minute or two. Tens of thousands, millions of times of the minutes that you've spent, and they've never. Some people have claimed a definitive answer, and then oops. A couple of years go by, we find there's a little thing in the brain you can tweak with, and suddenly you can turn on those experiences on and off with some regularity. keep looking into it, and don't ever be satisfied with a final answer on stuff that humans have been struggling with forever.
I'll tell you, if you are interested in looking into this more, into sort of exploring the world of skepticism, I'd encourage you to start with folks like James Randi. You can find tons of videos and articles about the incredible work that he did. You can find there's just a ton of resources out there. I want to make sure that you understand that we're not being cynical. We're not saying no,
Right.
souls and spirits don't exist. Our position is that we want to follow the evidence where it leads, and that we're not ready to believe something until there's sufficient evidence to justify that belief.
Right. All right. Well, I appreciate your time, and I wish I had, evidence to back up, my experience, but unfortunately I don't. But
go get it.
Yeah.
Jose,
I'll keep looking into it, and
Awesome.
yeah, go get the evidence and bring it back to us, and share us with what you find, and we'll work it through it with you.
We'll be
All right?
here.
Yeah.
all right, cool. Thank you.
All right. Have a
Thank
good
you
one.
so much. Kenneth, have you ever had any kind of a phenomenon like that sticks with you, sticks in your craw?
I mean, I used to think that like Jesus was talking to me when I would pray, and I would, there'd be thoughts in my heads, So I was a very, very like serious Christian for many years. Now I would say that those voices in my head were my own brain doing things. So yeah, I tend to be pretty skeptical about that kind of stuff. I've also been super sleep deprived in training environments in the Army, and seen stuff in the woods, but I was super sleep deprived. Like, of course I'm going to see stuff. So yeah.
It's always around sleep. I've heard my grandma call my name, right? And that makes me sad. Or I've had dreams of friends that are long gone, or dreams of my grandma. Actually, a lot of dreams of my grandma over the many years that she's been gone, and it's like, oh, but it's not convincing to me. So I wonder what it would be like if I had a dream, or I had a waking dream, or I had a moment at that twilight between waking and dreaming, where I was walking and talking and all that. Yeah. Footprints on the sand kind of stuff. I wonder if that would have happened then, if I would change my tune, but I don't think I would.